Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Heather Spears. So today I have a very special project to share, and I know I always say that I'm so excited to share my projects with you guys, but this one is actually the project that I've done that has meant the most to me. And it happened a few years ago before I had my YouTube channel here to really sit down and talk about it, so I'm so excited to say that I am finally here to discuss this very special occasion. So a few years ago, my sister, she actually had a Disney fairy tale wedding, and she ended up marrying one of the best people I've ever come to know. And they got married at Disneyland, and she asked me to make all of the dresses for the occasion. So I actually made her bridesmaids dresses, I made my Maid of Honor dress, and her wedding gown. And this is the first time I'm sitting down and discussing each of those looks. So I'm very excited and so grateful that you are here. If you're excited too, please give me a thumbs up so that I know. And without further ado, let's get started. First off, before we get started, I have to thank Sarah and Jim for allowing me to be such a big part of their special day. Now, I always say that there are few things in this world that are as magical as Disney, but I think true love just has to be one of them. And Sarah and Jim, every time I'm around them, they are always showing me some fairy tale romance that is just so authentic and so pure, and I am absolutely in love with it. So I know a lot of you are probably smiling along with me because either you have experienced exactly what I'm talking about yourself, or maybe you see it in friends and family, or maybe it's just something off of the big screen that we all just kind of love to see, but it is in them, and I can't even begin to describe how special it is. So before we get into talking about the dresses, I will tell you, if you're a Disney fan, then you probably want to know the wedding took place at the Disneyland Resort Rose Court Garden, so that is at the Disneyland Hotel. And you'll see some special Disney moments in this, like the Cinderella Carriage, and you'll see maybe some hidden Mickey shapes in the flowers and other fun stuff like that. But it's also kind of a closer look, or somewhat of a look inside of the Disneyland Hotel Fairy Tale Suite. So this is a super special room, and it is super perfect for weddings. So if you're a Disney fan in general, I think those are things that you'll probably want to see. But yeah, so as I'm talking about these dresses, just notice those little things. Notice the hidden Mickeys, notice the fairy tale suite and other fun, Disney moments. So those are in this video as well. When I started making the bridesmaids dresses, I of course sat down with my sister and asked her what she wanted first and foremost. And she said that the only thing that mattered to her was that her bridesmaids were comfortable with what they were wearing and that the final dress actually be red. So her and her husband's favorite color is red. They wanted this deep romantic feeling for their weddings. So really what it came down to is actually talking to each of the girls and figuring out what they were comfortable with and kind of taking their thoughts and merging them into one design for everybody, because she wanted red, she wanted the girls to match, and that was pretty much it. So what I did was I contacted each of the girls and kind of just went over design elements that they would like in a dress, and it ended up being super easy and it's super laid back kind of thing for me, because each of the girls actually said they wanted the main thing, and that was actually that the dresses have straps. So that was the main criteria piece from all three of the girls that they wanted. They said that they didn't want a strapless gown, mainly just because they didn't want to be pulling it up and adjusting it the whole time. So they all requested straps. And another thing that I thought was kind of cool or kind of interesting about actually talking with the girls and designing these dresses was I came up with a Pinterest board of all these pictures of dresses and told them to each choose the 3 favorite dresses out of this board. And I had maybe 50 dresses on this board, so it was a broad spectrum of choices, and they all actually chose one of a similar, kind of style of dress. So I kind of figured out that they all liked the sweetheart kind of neckline, and that was just kind of something, a little bit of a discovery thing, which made it kind of helped along with the design process. So that was really kind of neat. after I got the design down and the basic look of each of the dresses, I made 3 dresses and I did a fitting for 2 of them before the big day. Now the problem is the last dress, the girl, she didn't live, near, she was in another state, so she couldn't actually do the fitting until the night before the wedding. So I brought my sewing machine and all the supplies that I would need to adjust the dress to the Disneyland hotel with me, just in case the measurements that we discussed online weren't exactly perfect. Now, luckily, it did work out fine and I didn't need to make any major alterations that day, but I came prepared and ready to do that because I was so nervous that it wasn't going to work out. In the end, it all came together in such a good way here with the 3 bridesmaids dresses. And the girls, I mean, they are my personal friends just as well as my sister Sarah's, so I couldn't have asked for a better group of girls to work with. And yeah, so it came out and they seemed happy, or at least they told me they were. And yeah, they were beautiful, and it made me feel really good just to see them in the gowns on that day, on top of everything else. So my sister Sarah, she wanted my dress to be different than the bridesmaids' dresses. She wanted a different Maid of Honor dress. And I think it was because I was filling 2 roles in this wedding. And it was, before the big day was even close, my sister and her husband took me out to Disneyland, and they made an extra special day, getting extra special treats, going on all my favorite rides and all that stuff, and she asked me to be her Maid of Honor. Now on that same day, her husband came with a special gift. It was actually a Snow White bow, and he told me that he would like me to be his best woman. I gladly accepted without really knowing what it all kind of came into, but I got to be not only the Maid of Honor, but the best woman also. And it's kind of a little bit of a stride away from, talking about the dresses and stuff, but a lot of people always ask me why I wear this ring, and I wear it, you'll probably notice it in videos, and you'll probably notice it in pictures, and actually one side of it says Maid of Honor, and the other side says Best Woman. And it is what they gave me on the night before their wedding, as a gift and as a thank you for, helping out as much as I did. And yeah, so it's just kind of a symbol of the wedding and of this day. So if you were wondering, that's why I wear this ring. So since I was standing on both sides, I entered the venue and stood immediately on Jim's side, so the groom's side, and joined the groomsmen. And then my sister, walked up and got out of the carriage, and the ceremony began. And I was part of the special ribbon ceremony, binding the 2 together. And once that was over, I actually joined, my sister's side with the bridesmaids. So what it was kind of, they wanted a standout piece, something that kind of went with both sides and something that kind of differentiated my spot and my role here in the wedding. So that's why my dress is so much different than the actual bridesmaids' dresses. But it was a big criteria for my sister that my dress match, and she wanted it to match as exactly close to the bridesmaids' dresses as possible, with being a little bit different in design. So my entire dress is actually made out of the same fabric that I used for just the top of the bridesmaids' dresses. So you'll notice the same embroidery designs, the same beading and stuff like that on my whole gown. In terms of design, my sister told me that she wanted me to really just go wild with what I wore. She said it didn't matter to her what the design looked like or anything like that, as long as I did a good job of matching it with the bridesmaids. So I think my love for design actually comes from kind of a general idea just like this, which is something kind of like, ever since I was a little girl, I always had this fascination of dressing up, and I wanted to wear the most fabulous of everything, anything that I could. And I think that idea is the reason why I started sewing and designing in the first place. So this was kind of my moment to live out one of my personal dreams, along with being such a, figure of this wedding and watching 2 of my very favorite people get married. It was just really a truly special occasion. Finally, the big deal, talking about my sister's Disney fairy tale wedding gown. And this is a big picture dress, and definitely the most nervous I've ever been making anything in my life. But So before I started designing the dress and before we really got into it, Sarah made an appointment with the showroom to go try on dresses and get the feel of looking like a bride, and so she would know exactly what she wanted to ask for and exactly what she wanted. And I'm a little emotional. I'm a little bit of a crier, so every time she came out in one of these gowns, I was like ready to roll over for it. I was so excited to see her in these beautiful, beautiful pieces. And she came out of her appointment and she looked at me and she says, okay, now I know exactly what I want, and told me what she was looking for. So she told me that she wanted something much more sparkly. She wanted it sparkly than it, more sparkly than anything she tried on, at the showroom. And she said she wanted the whole top to be as sparkly as I could make it. So that was one of my pieces. And the second thing was she wanted it big. She wanted the dress as big as I could make it and something very fluffy and very princessy. And that's really what came out of the showroom, is what she got exactly what she wanted and got to list it all out. And we got to go shopping for all the fabrics and all of the trims and all of everything together. So that was really special, to be able to go out and actually pick what she wanted on her dress with her and all of that. So with that being said, there was a big thing about making this dress that was really kind of stressful or different than anybody would expect. And that is, the dress is being made in the same house where my sister and her husband live. And they have this very traditional idea that they didn't want Jim to see the dress before the big day. He wanted the first time for him to actually see the dress to be on her walking towards him, as they were going to get married. So I had to convert my bedroom into such a weird space. So what I had to do was, since it was in the same house, there was always a risk of him seeing it if I were to be going in and out of my room or whatever. So I took maybe like 2 or 3 feet back from my door on the inside of my room, and I hung a curtain all the way down to the floor. So I would actually enter my bedroom and close the door and then pull the curtain and then pull the curtain back to keep it really, really secure. So he didn't actually end up seeing the dress before the big day. And the dress, it was probably on display in my room for maybe 4 to 5 months, ahead of time, because I actually hand sewed all of the rhinestones onto the top of this dress. So that took quite a while, and it had to be on display on the mannequin for that amount of time, because when you sew on these sparkles and all this stuff, the dress starts to get more structure, and it starts to, you don't want to fold any of that, and you don't want to, I couldn't just take it down every single time and put it back up. So that was long and definitely a little bit of a different way of living for a little while. But the funnest part of this gown was actually making the petticoat. And she had this idea that she wanted a Cinderella moment during her first dance, where when she'd spin or twirl, you'd get to see fluff underneath her dress. And of course she did wear a hoop skirt, to take the fluff away from her feet, or else I am positive she would have tripped and fell. But so she had the hoop skirt, and then I put the petticoat over the top of it. And that's what really excited me the most when I was making the dress. And it's because I think every single time I make something, I feel the same way. But it's like when you look at it and you see the dress finally start taking shape, and that is what the petticoat did. It provided this extra structure, and it did give her those spinny moments to where you could see the petticoat underneath, which was really truly special and really truly fun. So I think it sounds so crazy to pick a petticoat as like your favorite piece of the dress, but that was my favorite piece. It was made out of this super shiny organza, and it was beautiful to look at without the dress on top of it, and it was so exciting to watch it take shape. The petticoat was its first instance of taking shape, and that's when I knew I was on the right track for making her vision come to life. After months and months of hiding this dress, it came to the point to where we needed to get the dress to the Disneyland hotel. And this was a very big dress, and I didn't want to risk folding it or smashing it or having anything happen to it. So I actually transported the dress on the mannequin to Disneyland. And the only car that it would fit in was actually my dad's Jeep. So I had wrapped the whole thing up in plastic and we put it in the back of his Jeep, and it took up so much space in the back of the Jeep that it was just kind of fluff and fabric and this mannequin all laying down in the back of the car. And that's how we got over to the Disneyland hotel. And then from there, I had to take the dress out and lug it myself up to the fairy tale suite. So we had Jim all the way removed, so he was nowhere to be seen, so he would not see the dress, you know, going up to the room. But it was kind of a funny situation because I was kind of going into all this common areas, lugging this mannequin wearing a wedding dress, you know, all over the place. So there's like Disneyland guests and hotel guests, you know, in the lobbies and by the poolside, everywhere I had to rock with this mannequin. And they were pointing and smiling, and they were, you know, yelling congratulations to my sister as we walked with this mannequin on this, in this beautiful dress. And it was just kind of funny. I think the funniest part was actually getting it in the elevator. But yeah, so getting it to the hotel was a whole nother thing in itself. And then so the next morning, I was the main one to help get my sister, you know, ready in her dress. She had a wonderful makeup artist, the same as the bridesmaids, which was her good friend for many years, Jenny Ariza. And she is a very special person and the owner of Iza Apparel. So definitely I will put all the links to her in the description box below if you're curious. But she did an amazing job and was much appreciated, you know, getting Sarah calm and ready for her big day. But when it came to getting dressed, you know, I took the dress off the mannequin and got Sarah all laced up in it, and she had tried it on probably 100 times before then, so it wasn't too stressful. But it was, you know, gonna be her time to shine. So the big moment for me with all of the dresses coming together in the public space for the first time was when Sarah got to see the carriage for the first time. And in this space, they had it separated to where the, you know, the wedding guests and the groomsmen and the groom, of course, was nowhere to be seen. So we all exited the fairy tale suite, dressed and ready for the big day. And they had the Cinderella carriage waiting for Sarah, and we got to take pictures with the carriage before the ceremony started. And that was a moment. I mean, I told you before, I'm an emotional person, so I lost it. And luckily I had, you know, one of my best friends, one of the bridesmaids came over and she's helping me, you know, adjust my makeup and stuff so I didn't look too silly in the pictures. After I took my spot at the ceremony, there was this moment, and the only people that knew that she actually had the carriage were pretty much me and my mom and her husband Jim and her, and of course at this point maybe the bridesmaids, but that was it. Nobody else really knew the carriage was coming. So there was this moment when she was arriving that the world just seemed so quiet, and then you all of a sudden you start hearing the carriage and you hear the wheels turning and you hear the horse, you know, marching. And it just rushes through your body and you get goosebumps and you know it's gonna be her. And then the carriage pulls up and she gets out, and it's that true Cinderella moment that, you know, you never imagined could be somebody you knew. And it was just such a special moment watching her pull up in that carriage. And after the ceremony, Sarah and her husband got to get back into the carriage and ride off on this romantic little escape from, you know, all this stress and everything. So that was really, really cute. And they took some really amazing pictures with the carriage before joining everybody at cocktail hour and then the reception. So that's kind of how it was really situated and how it worked, and definitely the most special thing I've ever seen in my life. Okay, you guys, so that is it for this video. And I need to stop myself now because I could ramble about this for hours. And I know I've done enough of that today. I have probably talked your ear off because, like I said, this was one of my most special days ever, and I'm so excited to share it with you guys. Thanks for sticking around until the end here. I really, really appreciate the support, especially on this project. So, if you enjoyed the video, please remember, give me a thumbs up so that I know. And if you'd like to hang out again, hit that subscribe button and you are always welcome. Until next time, bye!